This week on the Virtual Skeptics. Bob wonders what's the Saudi equivalent of Sherry Shepherd. What it says. Eve wonders if her cats have the autism or autism. I can't say that. Tim wonders if the herbal supplement industry understands Twitter, and Barb is just a wonder. I like my tone. I did that. I'm your host, Brian Gregory.
Do the whole show like that.
Okay, I will from now on. No, that hurts. It's like,
Your breathiness is wrong.
Yeah, no. Welcome to Virtual Skeptics again. Hi.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, everybody. Hey, everybody say.
The lady.
First up, yes. Now you messed up my timing. First up, we have Bob Blaskiewicz, which is easy to do. CSI conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities, and Skepticality contributor. Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities, and contributor to Skepticality at Insight without an S at skeptic.com. Barbara Drescher, former psychology instructor, blogger at ICBS Everywhere, and contributor to numerous skeptical projects, including Insight without an S at skeptic.com, and the odds must be crazy. Tim Farley, blogger at SkepTools and Insight without an S at skeptic.com, Skepticality contributor and creator of whatstheharm.net, and former JREF fellow. And that's all the stuff. Hi, guys.
Hi, Brian.
Oh.
Hi, Brian.
If you are watching and you want to do something besides just watch, you can post stuff, and we will look at it. And if we deem it worthy,
You're just suddenly really cocky, aren't you?
No.
And we have a pretty rigorous peer review process.
Yes, we do. We do. If we find it funny, it pretty much goes on. If it's an interesting question, it'll probably go on. So if you post it on, if you tweet with hashtag Virtual Skeptics with the accent, we will pay attention to that. If you comment on the YouTube feed, we will try to pay attention to that. Or let's see, is the Q&A thing up? Is the Q&A thing up?
Yes.
Q&A thing is up. So if you ask a question on the Q&A thing, like for instance, Andrew Hansford has a question queued already. Says, "Do you know it's National Drink Wine Day?" And yes, I do. I do know it's National Drink Wine Day, and I'm way ahead of you. Thank you very much.
In the wine drinking, or?
Yes. It's also National Battery Day, which I don't think is related.
Some wine does taste like battery acid.
That's true. That's true. Some of it's mad and very canine-like. I don't know. Okay, so next thing we do, after we've mentioned that and the thing and introduced the people, Tim Farley is going to give us this week's trivia question.
That's right. And it is, as it often is, out of my Skeptic history files. And it is August 7th, 1948. The Soviet Union made an important national science policy change that had huge implications both within the Soviet Union and outside the Soviet Union. What was it? August 7th, 1948, Soviet Union science.
Oh, wow.
What was the change they made?
And not surprising, I didn't know this, but that's interesting. I wonder if anybody's going to get that.
I hope some
so.
people will get it.
And if you paid attention, this is going to be real easy. The other thing we do every week, well, I do because it annoys the rest of the panelists, and I like that, is I put two videos on screens behind me, and if you guys can guess what they are, then I don't know. We've never really given prizes or anything. We'll just say hi and pat you on the back virtually. But these two, which you should probably not even know. If you do know this, I'd be really impressed. But if they should be relatively easy anyway. So there you go. Who's first?
I have one today too.
You have one today too?
What does my
you
enormous
can
pink
read
post-it
Bob's
note say?
big pink post-it note.
And if you get it right, we're burning you as a witch.
Yes, we're gonna all show up at your place and burn you at the stake.
Pitchforks.
Well, no, we'll virtually burn you. I don't know. I don't even know how that works. So
we will
Eve is
tweet
first
about
this
you
week.
unkindly.
What? We'll think about you unkindly. We will throw unkind thoughts at you and make you grow slower. I don't know. I'm going to switch over to Eve because the jokes aren't working.
Oh, yay. Okay. Last year, there was a funny piece on Reductress.com. Rachel Boughton, Admiral Ticklebelly, to the vet for a checkup and leaving with a cat who had... Yes. She says, my veterinarian insisted that vaccination was required by law and that it was extremely important to the health of my cat and that without vaccination my cat could get really sick and die. But I should have known better. I soon learned from holistic reading materials that vaccination equals autism. The signs of autism, it turns out, are general cat behavior. I have a slide that's sort of a visual aid for this.
Okay.
And she ends by saying, we the people know our pets better than some veterinarian with a fancy medical degree. There follows an editor's note announcing the sad news that Admiral Tickleberry has died from complications resulting from feline leukemia.
Tickleberry.
You know, it's very sad. It's a brief, funny, and effective parody of moms such as, for instance, I don't know, Jenny McCarthy, who think their magical mom senses somehow trump medical training and experience and scientific evidence. Unfortunately, it's also not that far from the truth as far as pet owners are concerned. Age of Autism reposted a post from Dogs Naturally magazine.
Oh God, that's a
thing.
Is it peer reviewed?
Yes. Yeah. Well, possibly, but
4 out of 5 dogs recommend.
Yeah.
That we.
No, dogs I think are too wise for this. That's an insult to dogs. It really is.
Okay.
The Dogs Naturally website assaults you with ads like cleanse, protect, rejuvenate, and find hidden dangers in pet food ingredients like a pro. So it's like Vani Hari, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Jenny McCarthy all rolled up into one Yorkie poo.
Wow. Jenny McCarthy, Vani Hari, and...
The article reprinted...
That's hot.
What?
Nothing.
Hush, Bob.
The article reprinted in Age of Autism begins, quote, neurological damage is one of the most prevalent and least desired adverse effects of the vaccine process. And it's true, it's not desirable. By over-vaccinating canines, we are introducing a potentially serious danger into society, brain-damaged dogs. As Paris Coulter convincingly demonstrated in his book, Vaccination, Social Violence, and Criminality, the unwanted consequences of human vaccination include sudden unprovoked violence in children. No wonder the British government has seen the need to introduce the Dangerous Dogs Act.
What?
So,
I'm
confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the dogs aren't getting the autism; they're just getting the violent brain damage, apparently, from vaccines. And oh God, you don't want to read the comments about how rabies
You never want to read the comments.
Yeah.
Aggressive.
Yep.
Rabies is making dogs aggressive. Now, AltMed is popular among pet owners and some vets, and I've talked about this before in previous episodes. But now there's also this anti-vax movement, and I don't think it's entirely new, but it seems to be growing along with the anti-vax movement amongst humans. Roxanne Comsey discusses it in a recent article in New York Magazine. Now, the rabies vaccine is required by law, so even holistic, homeopathic, and provide rabies vaccinations. But many pet owners are forgoing vaccines, and some vets are going along with it. The core vaccines for dogs are rabies, parvo, canine distemper, and canine adenovirus. And the latter three are usually given in one multivalent vaccine. According to PetEducation.com, efficacy of all these vaccines is high, and the risk severity of adverse effects is low to moderate for rabies and low for all the other core vaccines. The diseases the vaccines prevent are extremely nasty. We know rabies, very bad, with the foaming at the mouth and the dying. But the others, parvo and distemper, are often lethal. Untreated parvo is like 91% lethal, and it has to be treated. The animals have to be treated really quickly. And they're also highly contagious, particularly, again, parvo, which can live for like a year outside an animal, or at least for a long period of time. So if you end up with an animal with parvo, you need to do a lot of bleach work before you let another dog into the home.
You going to say something, Barbara?
Is that the one that they call kennel cough, or is that something else?
No, I don't think so. I think kennel cough
like
is a different virus.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But it's very nasty. Distemper, very nasty, and again, very highly contagious.
Yeah, that is tracheobronchitis. Infectious canine tracheobronchitis.
Ugh. Still sounds nasty.
Yeah.
It's not good. Although it's difficult to find hard numbers for animals, more dog owners seem to be skipping distemper and parvo vaccines. And last year there was an outbreak of distemper in Texas. Some irresponsible vets even encouraged the canine version of pox parties. Rosemary Manziano, a homeopathic vet, suggests dog owners take their dogs and puppies over the age of 12 weeks to the park to expose them to distemper, to allow them to build natural immunity. She got the idea, this is great, she got the idea when she heard of an outbreak of canine distemper among raccoons in New Jersey about 12 years ago. She encouraged her clients to take their dogs to the same area, like for 10 minutes at a time, when there's a known outbreak. Now here's the problem. There's no way to safely expose a dog to distemper to induce natural immunity without exposing them to the risk of getting distemper, which, as we've said, is very nasty. The only way to safely build immunity is through vaccination. One commenter on Age of Autism says that one of his or her dogs died shortly after I brought her home from distemper she received before I got her. It's extremely unlikely, if not impossible, for a dog to get distemper from the vaccine. But it is quite likely for an unvaccinated dog or not fully vaccinated puppy to get distemper when exposed to distemper in the wild. Mm-hmm. And dogs can pass distemper to other animals as well. So, it's potentially really bad. Raccoons can get it. I think seals have gotten canine distemper, although they have their own form, but from dogs. So potentially a very nasty problem if herd immunity weakens. Now, I should say, though, briefly, that the case is somewhat different for cats. Many cats live exclusively indoors, which does reduce, though it doesn't eliminate, their chances of getting vaccine preventable viruses. There's feline distemper, and there's a feline parvovirus too, though it has a different name. Core vaccines, and older cats, probably it's a good idea that they get the multivalent vaccine as well. But there can be legitimate reasons to decide to forego some vaccines for cats. For instance, cats are much more susceptible than dogs to vaccine-associated sarcoma, which is an aggressive malignant tumor at the injection site. It's comparatively rare, but it's common enough. Common enough that vets have changed vaccine protocols in cats. For one thing, they've changed where they place the vaccines, so easier to remove. Vaccine-associated sarcoma is particularly associated with the rabies and feline leukemia vaccines. Rabies is a core vaccine. In some states, it is required by law. The non-adjuvanted yearly rabies vaccine is preferred to the adjuvanted, which I didn't realize. I figured for some reason that getting it less frequently would be better, but apparently the yearly is better. Feline leukemia, however, is not a core vaccine. Feline leukemia is nasty, but in general, cats don't need the vaccine because they're not going to be exposed to.
Yeah. Eve, you're breaking up pretty severely.
Yes.
Could you maybe try reducing how much? Maybe reducing the video.
Yeah. She break up a little bit for us, but I think maybe this stream is fine.
Okay.
But better to push through at this point.
So, spayed and neuter cats,
course,
probably indoor cats, probably don't need the feline leukemia vaccine. Dogs, though, go out to relieve themselves. They're highly social animals, and they explore the world through their noses. So you should get them vaccinated, and I have a slide to end with.
Aww. Please vaccinate me. I want to live.
Oh.
Isn't that the saddest thing ever?
The cutest thing ever.
It's a puppet.
I had to put him away. He was making me sad. Thanks, Eve. I think we got most of that. She was breaking up a little bit for me, but I could follow most of it. So I'm hoping the stream's okay.
That wasn't too bad.
I had a question. I forgot what it was. There was a comment in the question feed.
Oh, I had a question.
Oh, go ahead, Bob.
When you have a homeopathic vet who recommends that you give your dog a fatal disease, isn't there a high incidence of death among her clientele that make it hard for her to stay in business? What economic voodoo is this person practicing? Because let's face it, they probably practice voodoo too.
Yeah.
To keep themselves in business. Answer me that, Eve.
I don't know. It just seems horrifying.
Apparently, this is like Jeopardy. We form our rants in the form of a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when people's dogs die, they usually blame somebody else and go out and get another dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, the comment was from Alex Murdoch, and he said something about kennel cough also being caused by Bordetella, relative to the whooping cough.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Bordetella. Yeah, I wonder why that didn't come up, because now that he said it, of course, I recognize it.
Yeah, and there's sort of, again, kind of an equivalent in cats, and they can get Bordetella also, but in cats it's usually feline herpes, I think.
Another wonderful virus. Yay.
Yeah.
Rabies. Rabies can infect any mammal? Is that? I believe that's right. It can infect any mammal. So in theory, you could have a whale with rabies.
It's kind of hard to fight a whale.
No, you wouldn't have to. What if you had, let's say, a killer whale and one of these seals that's been cavorting with dogs and getting parvo from dogs. You could do it.
You're a mad scientist, Bob.
I'm not sure.
I think you should get
Not
right on
parvo
that.
distemper.
Can you do some trials?
Stop trying to bring on the apocalypse, Bob.
Sorry.
No, that's my job.
That is your job.
Yeah, that's Brian's
Okay.
job.
Fine, jeez. I'm leaving it on Bob because Bob's next, and I couldn't make heads or tails of what his story was about from his links, but something about Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And
So usually we don't go into religious issues unless they involve testable claims or some child dying because some parent's a bonehead. We're not an atheist show, but nonetheless.
Or Ken Ham.
Or Ken Ham. Well, he has
testable claims.
Oh my God. He's just such a huge, easy target. It's just you just want to. He's like a religious pinata, you know. Anyway, you just whack him, and then the humorous goodies just spill out. But this week, there were some real doozies that spun out weird pseudoscience from religious belief. So I'm going to talk about two of them. Both of them are extravagant and amusing and terrifying and befuddling all at once. The first one.
I don't even know how to make that expression.
Huh?
How do you make that expression?
What
terrifying, bemused, and befuddled. Go ahead. Never mind.
All at once.
All at once. Well, all your expressions look like that, Bob.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, tough. So, the first one comes from the distant, mysterious land of Saudi Arabia, where not only the political hierarchy has been shaken up, but also the entire cosmos. Numerous outlets discussed a claim by Sheikh Bandar al-Kabari, who, when answering a student's question, who asked whether or not the Earth rotated. If you could bring up the first image, his answer was as follows, and I transcribed this from YouTube. First of all, where are we now? We go to Sharjah Airport and travel to China. By plane, right? Focus with me. This is Earth, and he holds up that glass. If you say that it rotates, we leave Sharjah Airport on an international flight to China. The Earth is rotating, right? So if the plane stops still in the air, wouldn't China be coming toward it? True or not? If the Earth rotates in the other direction, the plane will not be able to reach China because China is also rotating as the plane rotates. QED.
Makes sense.
The Mail and Telegraph noted that these claims were made with a straight face on Galileo's 451st birthday.
Nice.
Irony.
Yeah. So everybody's laughing at the cleric because everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, airplanes just hovering in the air for whatever. But also because this is not the 8th century. I had to check the story. I wanted to check to see if the story was in fact true because, like, the first place I saw it was the Mail, but there seemed to be enough regional papers covering it in their English version that it's probably accurate that this is what he's saying. It certainly looks like that's what he's saying when he's holding up the glass. Okay, so what effect does the rotation of the Earth have on flight times? Anybody here?
I'm sure it has some effect.
Well, I mean, it affects weather. So
Maybe he's not that funny after all, people.
No, I think that if planes flew at the exact same speed as the Earth rotated, and they weren't pushed by the air,
moves
doesn't the atmosphere rotate along?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna
it's not that simple, but it.
All right.
Yeah, it
basically has no effect. The rotation of the Earth has basically no effect, but there are reasons to think that you have experienced that. But I didn't understand that either. But so when we fly, we're embedded in the atmosphere, which, as Eve points out, also rotates because of friction.
It's like bouncing a basketball on a train.
If that makes you happy.
Well, no, that's a classic.
Well, if you're not very good at it, no,
Einstein's relativity.
But this isn't relativity.
No, but think it's part of the explanation. When you are playing, we'll say, with a basketball back and forth, the basketball doesn't, you don't throw the basketball and it goes flying in the air because the train's going 50 miles an hour. If you're inside the train, the basketball goes with the train because it's also moving. It's already got the momentum because it's on the train. So planes, when they take off, are already moving.
Well, okay, you can say all motion is relative.
All I know is that a plane on a treadmill is still going to take off.
I saw that episode of Mythbusters too.
Yeah.
But
Just thinking of that.
but moving through the medium of air neither increases nor decreases the airspeed neither increases nor decreases airspeed from the flight, regardless of the direction that you're going. But I've had the experience of having it take longer to go out west than it is to go east. And that's an effect of winds in the upper atmosphere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So giving you a little bit of a boost when you travel east. The prevailing winds go that way. So the upshot of this misperception on the part of the Sheikh is that the Earth is the proper reference point for the motions of the heavens, a position that we call geocentrism, which is to say he's not even wrong. It's so bad.
I think I've spotted his problem. The top of his head is missing.
Yeah.
That could be it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But, if you don't understand the concept of the fact that the Earth's rotation is, and gravity and that it's there's a warping of space-time around Earth and all that, if you don't understand that at all, it actually, his logic is good. He's just ignorant. I mean,
Ignorance not an insult. Ignorance can be
It's not an
corrected.
insult. It's the insult. The problem is, and this is the same with anybody like the food babe, who spouts off about this stuff like they're authoritative.
The problem is stubbornness,
is
not
that they
ignorance.
don't recognize
But
their own
both,
ignorance.
actually.
He doesn't recognize how little he knows. That's the problem.
Yeah.
His logic is good. It's not his logic that's the problem. The problem is that he doesn't have even the most basic understanding of how any of this works.
What, is this a Dunning-Kruger again?
It's
Well,
done.
it's sort of the difference between what is pseudoscience and pre-science or just being wrong. That something, given the knowledge available at a certain time period, seemed logical, made sense, the evidence that was available suggested it was likely to be true.
Right.
But if you persist in it, when more information is available, then it becomes pseudoscientific. So
wait a
he's
minute.
just...
Right.
So how does he think
I'm
that
not sure I
planes
wanna
work?
comment.
Like fucking magic? It's
Good
Jinn
question.
holding them up.
Has he ever been on a plane?
I don't know. But the thing is that one of the and I wasn't able to find a direct reference to this, but some of the coverage mentioned. But this bothers me too because when you see something this sensational and kind of this derpy, you really do want to have sources because it's just so tempting to copy and paste it, I think, for a lot of sources. But he was apparently citing other scholars of religion to support his claim, which is not really the right way to go about this. Now, not to be outdone, of course, there was a group in the U.S. that power-upped the crazy this week when they announced that they do not believe in dinosaurs. And it's not they didn't believe in evolution.
Oh, yeah, I saw this. Yeah.
They don't believe in dinosaurs. No fewer than 3 of my students asked me if I'd heard about this. I gave them an assignment where they had to look into asteroids and the extinctions of the dinosaurs. And as they were doing kind of like research on subtopics, like a bunch of them came back and go, "Did you hear about these people who don't believe that dinosaurs existed?" I was like, "Yeah, it's real." So, I think we can file this this story under person was wrong on the internet. So this was on the popular site Mumsnet, which is a parenting site. The Mirror picked it up, and it just went viral. And
I love the name.
is sort of amazing. So I'm going to read a little bit of it, which is just, wow.
Is there a slide?
Not yet.
Okay.
So it goes, quote, "I'm really concerned about dinosaurs, and I think something needs to be done. The science behind them is pretty flimsy, and I, for one, do not want my children taught lies. Did you know that nobody had ever heard of dinosaurs before the 1800s when they were invented by curio-hungry Victorians? Aside from the educational aspect, dinosaurs are a very bad example for children. At my children's school, several children were left in tears after one of their classmates, who had evidently been exposed to dinosaurs, became bestially minded and ran around the classroom roaring and pretending to be a dinosaur. Then
It could have been vaccines.
Yeah. Then he bit 3 children on the face. One poor girl has been left with a severely dented nose, and the whole class was left traumatized by this horrible display. Recently, my sister... This is the best thing I've ever read. Recently, my sister foolishly gave my 2 youngest some dinosaur toys for Christmas. After telling her to get out of my house, I burnt the dinosaurs. My children were delighted because they know that dinosaurs are evil. I am fortunate that my family has been very supportive and has disowned my children's former aunt."
So wait. So this kid's mom takes presents for the kid and burns them.
And they laugh.
You're wondering why the kid's running around crazy in school.
I think that if she,
Fighting people.
I wonder if anybody thought about, these are oil-based plastics. Where does the oil come from? Anyway.
Maybe the children were just furious because there were no feathers on them.
That's probably what. They were inaccurate? Good. Yes, so anyway, if you could bring up the next image, the Facebook group that this person claimed to represent and then plugged at the end of this post, Christians Against Dinosaurs, has started a campaign to get dinos taken out of the curriculum. And at the time they posted on Mumsnet, they had, by their own reckoning, a staggering 418 signatures. Out of 300 million people. That's,
yeah, I guess that's not...
To be fair, I haven't been able to verify that the original post came from a representative of the Facebook group. I joined the group, and another skeptic who'd been a member, I think, for a little bit already, has told me that he's been asked if they're legit many, many times by other skeptics. And he says that he thinks they used to be, but now it's just full of trolls.
Yeah, 400 trolls, certainly, and not a problem at all.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty amusing. Eve, did you have something you wanted to add to this?
Well, you know what the best thing about this is? That they supposedly are planning a demonstration at the Creation Museum. Because dinosaur.
Hold on. Cripple fight!
Well, that reminds me. The troll comment reminds me of something that Hemant Mehta brings up in some of his talks, and I forget what it was. It was some religious group, and it was some horrible thing, but they were trying to reach college-age students, and so they had this seminar or something, and he sent like a college kid that he knew to sort of be his reporter to go to this thing. And she talked to someone else who was like her age in the thing, and eventually, by just sort of chatting in the hallway, they figured out all the people that were their age that were at the thing were all reporters from skeptic websites.
Holy cow.
That the religious seminar wasn't reaching anyone, really. They were all essentially undercover reporting on what this Christian group was up to.
That's great.
Wow, that's interesting. I wonder if it's going to this whole like set of different groups that only exist because people want to know why they're so weird, and they're not really members or anything.
It's like just the whole Poe thing.
Yeah. See, we should start a group that's dedicated to going to weird stuff and acting like members.
Yeah.
And just like we can have like I don't know, trophies and stuff for the most membership of groups. Fake, I don't know, some kind of troll organization. I don't know. Thanks, Bob, for that. that was wonderfully fun.
That was
Better than better
It was a
than
good
your
time.
usual sad stories, but which I wasn't going to mention, but I did anyway. There was one comment on the Q&A app. Alex Murdoch again, asking about whether it's a parody. I think we covered that. It's possible that it is a parody, or at least it didn't start that way. Yeah.
I didn't see anything about the Creation Museum. I just really hope it's true. Really, really hope a lot that it's true.
Yeah.
I would go to that.
Yeah, you'd want to be there the day they show up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And maybe we could get the Westboro Baptist Church out there and just everyone. That would be
Got
wonderful.
any dinosaurs?
Wow. Pit them against each other.
Dinosaurs are
No.
fags.
I don't know.
Oh, Bob.
Okay. Nathan Miller, who's been watching, put a link out to a Wired article on this for more information and something about Neil deGrasse Tyson. So we'll probably throw that in the show notes if I think it's probably a good link. Who's next? I think Tim's next. Tim is going to be talking about things and stuff, Twitter and natural stuff, herbal supplements. They had a bad week, didn't they?
Yeah, well, kind of entertainingly bad. This is a follow-up to the story Bob did 2 weeks ago, which was about the New York State Attorney General did a study and found that most of the herbal supplements don't actually have what's on the label in the jar.
Yeah.
So he issued a cease and desist against Target and Walmart and GNC and a couple others saying, hey, get this stuff off your shelves in the state of New York. So one of my Google alerts that I use for What's the Harm hit on some articles about this, and I started looking into it, and of course, as you might expect, there have been class action lawsuits already suing Walmart and the other retailers for selling crap. But as you also might expect, the folks who make the stuff are angry, and they are kind of campaigning a little bit. And if you go to my first slide, I started digging around, and I noticed these tweets showing up on Twitter, and bunches of absolutely identical tweets that look like this. Now, A.G. Schneiderman is Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, the State Attorney General of New York, an elected official, which will become important in a minute, and they were all tweeting at him starting 2 days after the announcement. And basically they're saying they want to see the data. They want to see the raw data from the study, and they're saying that it's a matter of transparency. Not an entirely terrible thing to be campaigning for, but I was interested in, how many tweets are they sending? How effective are they being?
Boy.
And who's sending these tweets? Now, the 5 tweets that you see here, these are the first ones that started coming in, and the whole thing is being ringleaded by that NPA account that you see. That's the Natural Products Association, which is one of several national trade organizations for the folks that make ginkgo biloba and St. John's wort and all that junk that got taken off the shelves. Now, one of the things that stuck out immediately is all of the people that you see here work for the Natural Products Association, or work for their PR firm, or work for the magazine that they run their ads in. And that continued for several days. There was a lot of their own employees tweeting, which is okay, fine. If I was trying to make a hashtag go viral, I'd have all you guys send the tweet. So, you start with your best friends. But it doesn't take you long to go and find the action alert. And if you go to the next slide, this is the action alert, which is typical if you're involved in a nonprofit or whatever. You'll get emails that look like this. This is the web version of an email that says, hey, this terrible thing is happening. They're taking our stuff off the shelves. Click this button to tweet. And that's where the identical tweets were coming from. Because if you click that button, that's the tweet it makes. And very few people were actually editing the tweet to make it any different.
Lazy.
Yeah, it is kind of lazy. And then a day later, they had this other call to action press release thing. If you go one more, I guess they had some time to write something up. And they were telling people to call and to send emails, and also to click a link. And in this case, it's not a blue button, but that blue line of the 3 bold lines in the middle there that you probably can't read is the clickable link. And that particular link is a bit.ly link. And it turns out there's a little trick you can do with bit.ly link that I love. Bit.ly is a URL shortener. Mm-hmm. And whenever you see a bit.ly link, if you're curious as to whether or not that link is getting any traffic, like if you see the Health Danger tweeting something and it's a bit.ly link and you're curious how many of his followers clicked on it, you can find out. All you got to do is take that bit.ly link and add a plus sign on the end.
Huh.
And stick it in your browser, and you can see the stats on how many people click that link. Now, that doesn't necessarily tell you how many people read that blog post, because there might be other links that weren't through that particular bit.ly link. But anyway, that particular bit.ly link on that press release had only been clicked like 42 times. So they weren't getting a lot of buy-in on this whole thing. Now, I decided to kind of waste too much time going into this. So what I did is I fired up Storify, and I'll have a link in the show notes, and I basically captured all the stuff that was going to A.G. Schneiderman over the first 10 days. So from February 5th to February 15th, I captured all the tweets. And he doesn't get a ton of tweets, but they certainly weren't all about this. There's several other things going on in his office. And it was about 600 tweets, and then I started filtering out just to leave the herbal ones about this story, and then looked at what was left to see what was there. And what I found was a lot of people in the industry, like I said, their employees. Some of them, it's obvious that they're, if you go to the next slide, I'll show you the 4 accounts that were tweeting the most. This is the Natural Products Association. By far, of course, they were tweeting the most because they were telling other people to tweet. Then there's this CRN, which is the Council for Responsible Nutrition, which is another, kind of industry watchdog, trade association sort of thing. So, the Attorney General is probably not going to pay attention to any of their tweets because those are the people he's trying to regulate, right? The guy on the lower right, Dr. Daniel Fabricant, is the president of the National Products Association. Natural Products Association.
Freddie Replicant.
Sounds like Replicant.
Yeah, I don't know. I had never heard of him before.
Someone should ask him about turtles.
But
well, it means he's in the process of making something.
Right. And then the other thing you see here, USU Law, is a boutique law firm that specializes in natural supplement companies.
Ah.
And so
the CEO guy, this Fabricant, was director of the Division of Dietary Supplement Programs at the FDA.
Yeah, that's what it says on his bio.
Conflict of interest much, my friend?
Well, he was, and then he went to this, yeah. So these are the, most of the tweets were coming from these guys. So I went down the rest of the tweets and just kind of looked and categorized them to try to see what was going on. Now, one of the things I noticed is, if you go to the next slide, a lot of this,
the egg,
this is what we call a sock puppet. This is an account that was created in September 2009, tweeted once in October 2009, follows barely anyone at all.
Oh, God.
I know. It's and then clearly a bot.
All of a sudden woke up to tweet in this campaign. And in fact, this particular account, since it was only following 5 accounts, I took one of my toy Twitter accounts. I have a few that I use for experiments when I'm, explaining things to people. And I made my toy account follow the same 5 people, and then I went back through the feed, and there's no way this account saw any of the tweets to know to tweet that. So how did that tweet get there? And if that one doesn't impress you, here's one that's an even better sock puppet if you go to the next slide. Here's one that has tweeted once, follows no one, is followed by no one. The only thing this account has ever done.
And clearly should be following Office Depot.
Right. has tweeted in this campaign. So there were probably, I'll have the numbers in a second, but a bunch of these accounts were sock puppets like this, which now, there's no way to know who did the sock puppet accounts. It might not have been the Natural Products Association. It might have been a well-meaning fan, thought he was helping, and dug these accounts out, had them laying around from some previous experiment. Or
probably his name is Nicky or Jacob.
But you know what?
Some combination thereof.
But it is funny when you see people who are trying to do a grassroots thing and you see these sock puppet accounts. We saw this once before. Remember, like 4 or 5 years ago, the infamous Shorty Awards thing where Mike Adams was running against Rachel Dunlop, and we looked into who was voting for Mike Adams, and it was a lot of accounts like this that had never said anything else on Twitter, and all of a sudden they're voting for Mike Adams.
Yeah, but it's gone. Never mind. I'll remember.
Okay.
Okay, so speaking of Mike Adams, I was interested to see what other folks in the industry were doing, so I looked to see what he tweeted about it. And if you go to the next slide, his tweet is he posted the story. Actually, he didn't write the story. One of his other writers on his site wrote the story. But first of all, totally blows the headline here because it says FDA cracks down, and that's not who was involved. The FDA is not involved in this.
To be fair, he's a fucking idiot.
Well, yeah, we know that. But the whole story was written not from the standpoint of, oh no, they're taking our supplements away, but oh, look how horrible Walmart and GNC are, big businesses out to get you. And you should buy your supplements from us.
Also,
that's what I was thinking.
So he's off on a different tangent, and I assume probably a lot of other natural products people who sell the stuff themselves are probably the same way, where they don't care because they're going to sell it themselves, and as long as they're not located in New York. Good. What?
They're getting the wrong message from it. Our stuff is good.
Right, exactly.
So if this stuff is fraud, our stuff is good.
Yeah, and actually Joe Mercola just finally tweeted about it today, and his story actually does cover the controversy. But again, doesn't really ask any of his followers to do anything with it, and has a big hunk at the end that's all, well, our stuff at the Mercola.com.
You know what? I would love to just, I took this stuff and I felt kind of silly afterward, and so I'm going to report it. That's all they need to investigate it.
Right.
You know?
Right. So, here's the thing. If you're going to do a campaign like this that has to do with a particular state, the thing you have to remember is somebody like Eric Schneiderman is an elected official. In fact, he was just reelected in November 2014. And he needs to, Brian left. He needs to hear from people in his jurisdiction. And one of the problems with all those industry accounts that we're tweeting is most of those people live in Washington, D.C., or Boulder, Colorado, or Arizona, or Phoenix, or other places like that. So I went down, actually, as I was going down the thing, I started looking at who was in the industry and who wasn't, and I recorded where each account was. And I didn't even, I actually did a little bit of digging on some of the accounts, because some people have like a LinkedIn link as their biography, and they don't have their location on Twitter. So I'd click the link and see where they actually live, or I'd click their blog link and see if it says on their thing. And I was able to determine the locations on most of the people. If you go to the next slide, we'll get to the locations in a minute, but here's the summary of what the tweets were. We had 378 tweets over 10 days. Which was a pretty significant percentage of the tweets that Eric Schneiderman was getting. So they were kind of bombarding him. There were 122 users involved. 66 of them, or roughly half, were actually, as far as I could tell, legitimate individuals who had responded to this thing, or local businesses. There was a lot of local health stores and things like that. And they sent 101 tweets, or about a third of the tweets. About 2/3 of the tweets were sent by industry accounts. Like the Natural Products Association, CRN, Fabricant, his PR firm, his lawyer was retweeting a lot of this stuff. I found one guy who was his lawyer's law clerk, that USU law firm. Those are all people who stand to lose if the New York gets its way. And they sent 254 of the 378 tweets. And then of those sock puppets, I found 16 sock puppets that were pretty clearly either long abandoned accounts that were woken up just for this, or just flat out sock puppets that were being used for PR purposes. And a handful of those tweets, probably half a dozen of the tweets, were sent from weird robots where people have set up where you can go to a website and type something in and will tweet it anonymously for you. People were pasting things into that because it's like, okay, you're tweeting anonymously at the Attorney General. I didn't get what that was about. I guess it was just to
Sounds like they don't understand how this works.
To make it look like there were more.
Yeah, to look like there were more. But if you dug, you spent 2 seconds clicking into that account, you could tell that it was an anonymous essentially re-mail.
He's a politician, though.
Here's the thing.
Joke. That's a joke.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. The guy is elected, so how many people did they actually get who were from New York? If you go to the next slide, there were 12 accounts from New York. Now, if you take out the ones that were obviously associated with the industry, one of whom was that USU law that sent a whole ton of tweets, they actually ended up with 12 tweets from 9 people over a 10-day period that were actually New York voters that Eric Schneiderman would give half a flip about. So, big waste of time. Now, that having been said, maybe it happens that their followers aren't Twitter users. And so this is the weekend of the campaign, and they may be calling. So, here's your call to action, folks who are out there. And let's not make the same mistake they made.
Quit poking at me.
Those of you who are watching who live in New York, I want you to tweet to A.G. Schneiderman and say that you like what he's doing, that you're glad that he's regulating herbal remedies. And let him know that we appreciate it. There have been people in the feed who've been saying that, but we need skeptics. We need to say it too. And we need to be aware when these things are going on so that we can throw our voices into the mix and say, hey.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm sure we know at least 9 New Yorkers.
Oh, I know a few, and I'm gonna contact the ones I know privately. I'm gonna write all this up into a blog post. I've got it partially written, and it may appear tomorrow or Friday. And once I have that, I will email that link out to all the New York skeptics that I know.
One of the things that I've been seeing on the Brzezinski hashtag for the last month and a half, 2 months at least, ever since the charges were released, actually, so back into the fall, has been a steady stream of the same headline being retweeted over and over and over. And let's face it, Brzezinski's balls are in a vice right now.
Right.
This seems to be a common tactic to try to sway people one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something that we could do.
Oh, to look at whether it's sock puppets and that.
Yeah, because it's the same thing over and over and over, and I don't know.
Well, sometimes sometimes when you see that, when you see identical tweets, it's because of the tweet this buttons on websites. And they'll pick up the title from the post, and so they'll end up creating identical tweets every time. So sometimes it's that. But one thing you can check is see if the button on the thing really does create the tweet that you're seeing. And that would be an interesting piece of evidence. If you click the button and you end up with a different tweet than the one that you're seeing repeating, that tells you that those tweets were not created with that button.
You're a mad ninja, you know that?
They were created some
mad Twitter online ninja.
Yeah, you need to dig into these things and look. And we need to pay attention. Again, this was something that I referenced in my TAM plenary in 2012, was how the folks that are into alternative medicine and natural products and herbal supplements and stuff, they will, this was kind of a crappy campaign, but, when they get riled up, they will make trouble. And skeptics need to be aware when these things are happening and need to chime in with our voices, and so that the politicians don't just hear from one side. They hear from the other side. And it's not enough for us to say, oh, that's great. We have to direct the oh, that's great message to the elected officials so they know we like what they're doing.
Yeah.
Also,
quick.
I just got confirmation that the Christians Against Dinosaurs is a hoax.
Oh.
Damn it.
So Wired magazine
Too good
covered
to
it for
be
no
true.
reason at all.
Bob's so good he debunks himself before
No.
the show's over.
We crowdsourced thinking.
Ah, good.
Right.
Let me see. If
We're kind of going long, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
switch over to Barbara and let her do her spot. And if we
Sorry.
Okay.
can stand it, then not stand Barbara. If people can stick around, maybe I'll do robots at the end. But so I'll skip
I don't
my
think
slides
Long.
and go, Barbara, go.
Okay, so a couple weeks ago, there was an article in Mother Jones.
That was the one I saw.
Science says your Fitbit is a joke. Well, let me first say that I own a Fitbit. I own a Fitbit Flex. I like my Fitbit Flex. I haven't worn it in months, and there's a long story as to why I haven't worn it. It really is totally irrelevant, so I won't go into it. But I will say I do like it.
Tim's got his.
Huh?
Tim's got his on screen.
I got mine right
Yeah,
there.
he's got a Fitbit One.
Fitbit One, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it in my pocket.
I have the wristband one. It tells me, it buzzes on my wrist. I can set an alarm, so it buzzes to wake me up in the morning. It tells me how far I've walked. It tells me, how many steps I've walked. It's got a little app that lets me record my, food intake and calories and all that, and it estimates the calories burned and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that it is entirely accurate in any of those things, but I know that it gives me a ballpark figure that I can compare from day to day, and I don't think it actually tells me exactly when I'm sleeping either. If you look at the sleep patterns, it says, that you're restless or awake or whatever, and I don't think that's necessarily true, but at least it's giving me an idea from day to day. I can actually see how my sleep pattern, how my movement in my sleep changes. So I like my Fitbit. Well, I wrote about this because after I saw that, I kind of just, whatever. And then I saw somebody posted a Jezebel piece that said, your Fitbit is bullshit, says science. Well, whenever you say science says, that's when I kind of go,
and you probably should put a Y at the end.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's good science. It just doesn't say that. So, whenever they say something like that, I always have to look it up because I know that somebody's misinterpreting the science somewhere, and so maybe my Fitbit isn't bullshit. So when I was looking for this, I found another article by Riot titled "Science Says Your Fitbit's Full of Shit." So I know what's going on here. They're all copying each other, which is what they do. And of course, the Jezebel article does, yes, actually links to the Mother Jones article. So, but I don't really, I don't trust them for accurately interpreted science news. So I was a little skeptical. So I looked at the Jezebel piece, and that's one's pretty easily dismissed. It's lazy blogging. The author links to Mother Jones and says, they paraphrase one of the main points and says, Mother Jones points to a new article or a new study showing that your iPhone or device of choice does just as good a job, if not a better one, at doing things like tracking calories and measuring activity. Except that's not what Mother Jones says. The Mother Jones piece reads, according to a new study published Tuesday in the Journal of the American Medical Association, the apps on your smartphone do just as good, just as well, or even better, at least in terms of measuring your steps and your calories. So they incorrectly paraphrased Mother Jones, and they weren't the only ones. The Riot article said, a new study came out showing that iPhone apps and other much cheaper devices do a better job than the bands at tracking your activity, steps, and even calories. No, it doesn't. So let's assume the Mother Jones' article is correct. The paraphrases aren't. First of all, walking, yes, is an activity, but it's not the only type of activity. So Mother Jones was correct in noting that smartphones can do the work of pedometers. But Jezebel and Riot are overstepping. Wearing things like the Fitbit Flex or the Jawbone Up, which are the wristbands, those things you can do, like you can wear when you're swimming, when you're bowling, when you're doing jumping jacks. You can't really do that with your smartphone. You're not sleeping. Not for very long, not unless you tape it to your body. It can't track your activity while you're sleeping unless, again, tape it to your body. But let's look at Mother Jones. Is Mother Jones right? Might smartphones do a better job? Well, okay, so the Jezebel article linked to the original source, which is a press release by the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. But it doesn't appear that Jezebel or the Riot piece actually read that, even though the Riot piece, get this, the Riot piece clearly plagiarized from Mother Jones, but doesn't even mention Mother Jones or the article or link to it. So they're just plagiarizing from them.
It's the internet. No one has to,
I know.
credit for
But they link to the press release, as if they're getting it from the same source. Now, I'm going to give Mother Jones some credit here. That article actually was based on more than this one study. It was a lot more in-depth and detailed. But still, the title was, Your Fitbit is a joke? Yeah. Science says your Fitbit is a joke. So is it a joke? Is it full of it? Is it bullshit? Okay, well, the study discussed, the article that's discussed in the study and in all the other pieces talks about counting steps, or it looks into step counting. That's all it did, okay? There's absolutely no comparison of different devices in regard to tracking calories, no examination of other activity, not even reports of distances walked. What they did is they took 14 participants, and the study's actually pretty well designed. 14 participants all wore all the devices at once. So like they had, a Fitbit on one arm and a Jawbone on the other, and iPhone in their pocket, and the Fitbit One clipped to their shirt. And they were on a treadmill, and they each did 2 trials each of 500 steps and 1,500 steps. So lots of observations.
So they're all in different locations in the body.
They are in different locations in the body, but they're in places where they would normally be.
Okay.
I thought it was actually very well designed.
So
they described
that
where
like
they put them all. It was all places where they would be. So you're normally going to keep your iPhone in your pocket. You're going to clip a clip-on to your shirt or
like
to your belt. I think the clip-ons were all clipped to their belts. And you're going to put the wristbands on your wrist. Here's what they found, though. Here, it showed the results. There's one slide.
Okay.
This is the results just for the 500 step trials. Actually, I thought I'd gotten the 1,500 step trials, but I didn't. This is the 500 step trials. I need to edit my blog post there. But the 500, the 1,500 and the 500 look almost identical. The pattern is pretty much exactly what you see here, except for the error bars on the Fitbit Zip are non-existent, just like the error bars on the Fitbit One.
So the Fitbit One is pretty accurate.
Yeah, the Fitbit One and the
one.
Fitbit Zip, yes. Yours is the most accurate there, Tim.
In terms of steps, though, yeah.
This is for steps. The Fitbit Zip and the Fitbit One are both clip-ons, and those things are dead on in both sets of trials and all the observations. It looks like the Nike Fuel Band sucks.
Yeah, so basically the Nike Fuel Band is a random number generator.
That's what I was thinking.
It couldn't be, because if that were true, then it would have wider error bars, and the mean would be like dead center.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay.
so
It
So
wasn't
it's a
Barb,
random
but
it's
that's
a random
okay.
number generator with a range.
with a wide range, yes, very wide range. But it is still close. Yeah, it's close to that. I mean, the error bars are like they're huge, and it's really low. It really underestimated in both instances. So what they said in the article is that what they said is we found that many smartphone applications and wearable devices were accurate for tracking step counts. So they're calling them all pretty accurate. Data from except for the one Nike Fuel Band. Data from smartphones were only slightly different than observed step counts, but could be higher or lower. Wearable devices differed more, and one device reported step counts more than 20% lower than observed. So actually, the wearable devices did not differ more. I don't know why they said that. The Fitbit Flex differed a bit. But what's interesting about this is they didn't do any statistical analysis at all. So I could maybe buy the idea that these are not statistically different. That it's not statistically significantly different. But one thing that I would never buy is that the Fitbit is worse than phones or any of the other devices. It just isn't. That's just not clear. Clearly, 2 of the Fitbits are superior.
Right.
Well, for this one variable, yeah.
For this one variable of steps, yes.
Yeah.
It's true that phones have GPS, so they can give you better distance measures, maybe. But the idea of counting your activity has more to do with how much you're moving around. So regardless of whether or not smartphones outperformed wearables, clearly they didn't outperform the wearables. The question really, what the researchers were interested in is, can wearing these devices improve health? Okay, and what they concluded in the article was increased physical activity facilitated by these devices could lead to clinical benefits not realized by low adoption of pedometers. Our findings may help reinforce individuals' trust in using smartphone applications and wearable devices to track health behaviors, which could have important implications for strategies to improve population health. So there is some hope that these wearable devices...
Basically what you're saying is that science says the Fitbit is crap. So, wait, oh.
Yeah, right. No, I'm saying that science says that the Fitbit is just fine and may actually improve your health. But if you're not interested in some of the things that something like the Fitbit can do that a smartphone can't do, then use your smartphone. Use something, or don't use something. Just get off your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. And if these things help you to get off your ass and to eat better and to do those things, then pay attention to calorie count, then use them.
Yeah.
That's what the science says. And after I wrote all of that and did all of that, or most of that, I found this great piece on Mashable that said pretty much the same thing. That was posted yesterday.
Yeah.
So I can't even be excited that I beat him to the punch, because I decided to write this piece last night, and that was clearly already up. So
Yeah.
in the end, I'm going to have to conclude with
what the resource.
Yes, it is. It is a great resource, and I do link to it because it's a really good read. He was more interested in just calling them out on the bullshit. He even compared it to a game of telephone, which I did, and then I edited it out after I read that. So I ended with what he opened with. These are poorly designed. There are poorly designed scientific studies, and then there's poor reporting on scientific studies by journalists who should know better.
Yep.
Yeah. Most of these sources are internet sources or internet publications.
It's Mother Jones, Jezebel, and Riot. They're all internet based, and they read a press release. They latched onto something. They started writing about it. They twisted it to make it. They came up with a headline. Somebody came up with a headline to make it sound more interesting or more edgy or more cool. And then these on Mother Jones, and then Jezebel and Riot just plagiarized.
They were some of the usual suspects when a few months ago saying that science says that half Viking warriors were women. And it was, first of all, an old study.
I can see how that would really irritate you.
It really irritated. And it's not what the study said at all. I mean, not remotely.
Not even remotely.
Because they hadn't read it. They were just
they were parodying somebody else.
feeding off each other, yeah.
Yeah, it was the same thing. If you read the piece that I wrote for Insight last week about rock, paper, scissors,
That's
there
Insight
were
with Onus?
dozens of, I mean, this thing was covered in probably 100 blog posts, and most of them got it wrong because they were copying from somebody who got it wrong.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of those blog posts are automatically generated by the bots.
I bet some of them are.
Because there are blog posting bots out there. I don't think there's anything that sophisticated. I think most of them are just reporting stuff. But
there are journalists that are working on stuff like that.
I know.
The particular area where I've seen it is stock reporting.
Yep.
And
Sports.
sports.
Coverage.
Right, they have robots that can write a summary of a baseball game from the scorecard.
Yeah. Look at that.
Wild.
I was actually looking at buying one of the new Fitbits because they have the heartbeat monitoring now, and I wanted something to monitor heartbeat because it gives me a better. Well, it gives me a feel for the amount of effort I put into something that doesn't directly map to GPS movement. Like if I'm riding my bike, I can get a feel. I get some kind of feel for how much work I put into it by elevation change and GPS change, and time. But if I'm like in the wintertime when it's got a foot of snow outside and I'm riding my bike on a stand over in the corner, I have to guesstimate how hard I push it for 30 minutes or 45 minutes to get an idea of how much effort I put into. And if I had a heartbeat statistics of some kind, even if it wasn't perfectly accurate, but what I hear about those devices is that the error rate is higher with higher heart rates.
Huh.
So the time you want the statistics the most, when you're exerting yourself, you have the least accurate, and to the point where sometimes you get failure. It really
Heart failure?
No,
Yeah.
for some, I guess, but for a lot of cases, you get extreme underreporting of.
Oh my God, my Fitbit says I'm dead.
Yeah, so
they'll get it right eventually. They'll figure it out.
Yeah. If I really wanted, I could get one of those ones that wrap around that work really well, but are a huge hassle, and that's not worth that much to me. So. Yeah,
I've seen the pictures of those.
Yeah. Okay, so let me do this really quick. Let me see that right there.
Boom, 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 boom,
boom, boom, boom, boom, boom. Yes. So this week on the Robot Apocalypse, I got a couple of quickies. First, there's this thing, and I'm going to read this to you. This is amphibious robot guard ball, which is my new favorite insult. You amphibious robot guard ball.
Does it shoot lasers?
It does not shoot lasers.
Does it control motes?
Actually, it may shoot lasers, but not damaging lasers. I got a video. Let me do the video.
Was it used in The Prisoner?
No.
Yes.
There we go. There we go. This is by GuardBot Incorporated, which is a company in Connecticut. It is essentially let me get my statistics up here. It is a 2 feet wide round ball with a robotic platform inside of it that can carry a number of different sensors inside the transparent domes. The demos they're doing, they have cameras in there so they can record video. But it's supposed to be multiple terrains, supposed to go in water, and a number of different terrains they've tested it in, including sand and snow. It's not fully autonomous, meaning it can't navigate, but you can. It does have GPS, so you can program a patrolling route, but it's normally remotely controlled. And they have different models as well. And this is like the standard size. They have them all the way down to 4 inches small. And this is the average size. They have great big ones too. But the idea is they can just use these things to patrol. And the small ones are talking about maybe checking the undercarriage of vehicles and stuff like that for bomb detection. Yes, and Bob, it does look a whole lot like Rover, but it would need to be more balloon-like, I think. But I want I want to get some of the 4-inch ones. I want like 50 of the 4-inch ones and just have them follow me around in a cloud constantly. And the other thing I thought of is that this is pretty much the same technology that's in if you go into like Sharper Image or one of those mall stores, you can get this thing called the Sphereo, which is a ball that you can control with your iPhone or your iPad, and it's essentially the same thing. It's got a piece, essentially got a gyro-stabilized inside part that keeps it flat while it's just changing the it's distributing the weight by torque so that it can drive itself around. Very cool, very neat. Not weaponized yet, but we'll see.
Well, what kind of guard bot is it? Guard ball bot is it if it isn't weaponized? That's just silly.
I don't really know. I don't really know.
More of a scout bot. That can
well, it could be guarding. I mean, there are guards that don't have weapons.
I guess it could bump into your shins.
It could.
And that could smart.
It could drop from high. It could guard the building.
You.
Drop from. Yeah. It could.
And because it's amphibious, it can patrol moats. That's the really.
That's true. You could have a moat full of these things. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm doing that.
Check killer whales for distemper.
It could. Killer whales for distemper. Not my first choice, but. Okay, the only other big story I have, and this is kind of a big story, but I'm going to try to go through it really quick, is that the FAA finally published their first draft of the drone rules for the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And here's some summary of some of the. It's too much to go through, but there are a few key points I can talk about. This is only applying to unmanned aircraft that weigh less than 55 pounds, so small ones. A few things that are required now. Daytime operation. You can only fly them during the day. You have to be in line of sight with either the operator or what they call a visual observer, because they're allowing for vehicles that are autonomous, that fly themselves. But you have to have a pilot-like person in visual contact with it at all times when it's flying. And it has to be naked eye contact. You can't be watching it with a telescope. You have to be watching it with only...
Or an onboard camera.
Yeah, or an onboard camera. They said first-person camera on the aircraft is not good enough.
Right.
Maximum airspeed 100 miles an hour, which I don't think that's a big deal. Maximum altitude of 500 feet. So they're talking about close to the ground. Also, it's pretty much not allowed in Class A airspace, of course. That's 1,800 feet, 18,000 feet or above. Class B, C, D, and E are all the other classified airspace, and you need permission to fly a drone in any of those. Class G is all the other space that's not classified as something, and that pretty much is okay to fly in as long as you stay under 500 feet and have the other restrictions. Operators don't need to be licensed, but they do have to have identification on the vehicles. They have to be over 17 years old. A few other things are listed here that's too much to go through right now. But the point is, it's pretty nicely open for hobbyists, that's for sure. Most of the off-shelf stuff applies. Maybe you'll have to add identification to a vehicle if you're flying it in anywhere but your backyard, maybe. The line of sight thing is kind of a big deal, and the daytime operation is a very big deal for some. I know that people, because of lack of ability to enforce this stuff, people have been using them anyway. This past New Year's, when I was down in Baltimore Harbor watching the fireworks, I saw 2 drones out there over the water with identifying lights on them, which is how I could tell that they were drones, because they were moving like aircraft, doing video of fireworks. And there was one other thing that I forgot to mention. You're not allowed to fly it over people that aren't involved in the operation of it. So you can't like fly it over a crowd without permission, which is another big thing, especially for like for press,
crowd surveillance and stuff.
Crowd surveillance. Yeah, this is also a small
Make a
hobby.
condition of the ticket though, like at a football game or something.
I'm pretty sure. I bet you there's something in there about law enforcement that can work around some of this stuff. But I was thinking for like press coverage and for journalism, because those are definitely going to be non-government use or non-government agency use. So.
There's a Apple fanboy website that flies a drone over the construction site of Apple's new headquarters. It looks like a giant spaceship.
Yeah.
Big circular building they're building out there, and they fly a drone over it every few weeks and show the progress of the construction just because Apple people love whatever. But I guess their flights would be illegal under these rules because you're flying over the construction workers. Right.
Yeah, it's a lot to get through. I'm sure there's much more details on what the restrictions mean and how the workarounds are. And also, I'm sure that it's the first version. It's going to get revised multiple times. I will link to this nice summary article that was on IEEE Spectrum, and there's links directly to the FAA site if anybody really wants to know the guts of this. At least they're moving, and at least we can start flying our drones. And that's that.
Are there any restrictions on amphibious guard balls?
They would not be covered by the FAA because it doesn't fit.
Well, yeah. But the
Possibly by the Coast Guard.
Amphibious guard ball.
I think if you have your amphibious guard ball on a major highway, it would have to be road ready and therefore meet the requirements of a motor vehicle, like the same way as a self-driving car. Which is another thing that I didn't talk about, which is in the news. I might link to anyway. Is both Uber and Amazon are looking to start or looking at how they would start a self-driving taxi service.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be something I mention in a later show or I get more details on it. But there you go. That is the birth of the Johnny Cab, if you're paying attention to that. And anybody who is now paying attention to the feed and didn't answer what the videos are behind me, I'm really disappointed because both titles just came up at the same time. Never mind. Thanks for watching. Let's see. We got a couple of things we got to do to wrap up the show. What was the trivia question answer there, Tim? Did anybody get it?
Yeah, two people got it. One on Twitter and one on YouTube, and I think they were within seconds of each other. It was Nigel,
Of course, he gets a lot of them.
Nigel on Twitter and Pierre on YouTube, and it was Lysenkoism. Lysenko was the famous biologist in Soviet Russia who rejected the conventional theories of evolution and went with Lamarckian evolution. And on August 7th, 1948, his theory was made the official policy of the Soviet government, and it was essentially illegal to study or write about other theories of evolution, and it was a disastrous thing, and it had a lot of interesting implications. State-mandated pseudoscience.
Congratulations on those who got that, and Nigel, who seems to get quite a few of them. I got one partial answer for the videos behind me because somebody must have seen. Oh no! And just recently, Alex got them both. He got earlier. He got GOG, which is on my left screen, which is a movie about a robot that goes amok. That's actually quite cute, but kills people brutally anyway. From the mid-50s, maybe late 50s. And the other one is called Kronos, which is about an alien robot that invades Earth, gets shot down, and goes mad because he got shot down.
Did anybody get my Post-it note?
Did anybody get Bob's? I don't think anybody got your Post-it note. I can't read your
tried.
Post-it note because.
Yeah, my Post-it note says, This is a huge Post-it note.
Okay. I don't see how anybody could read that because it looks blank to me.
Yeah. Well, it's not saying anything, so
Okay.
you kind of win by default.
Okay, so everybody get your books. Announcements. Huh? What? Oh.
I thought we were going to skip book time.
Totally forgot to get a book.
Well, it'd be the first time ever we've skipped book time.
It is 6:25 though. My time.
No, it's 9:23.
You've got plenty of time then. You have hours.
The show hasn't even started yet.
I know. Time travelers. All you time travelers are messing with my head. Tim and Bob have segments on this week's Skepticality. Skepticality.
Yep.
I can't even say it. Skepticality.
Sound like Max Headroom.
Yes. Yes. Who's going first?
I will.
Go.
Irritability was a definite symptom, and the NET guidelines specifically stated that time-like sufferers were to be immediately removed from the environment and from duty. But if I did that, I would have to explain to Lady Shrapnel that what we were doing in Oxford instead of Coventry. Well, stop.
Who's next?
I'll
Eve?
go.
Yeah, go on.
During the 2 preceding centuries, scientists had spoken of exceptional or mysterious happenings and phenomena in different terms. For 18th century natural philosophers, the operative contrast was that between natural and the unnatural, with the supernatural standing on one side, so to say, for emergency use only.
Bob?
Most persons are surprised and many distressed to learn that essentially the same objections commonly urged today against computers were urged by Plato in the Phaedrus and in the 7th letter against writing. Writing, Plato has Socrates say in the Phaedrus, is inhuman, pretending to establish outside the mind what in reality can only be in the mind. It is a thing, a manufactured product. The same, of course, is said of computers. Secondly, Plato's Socrates urges, writing destroys memory. Those who use writing will become forgetful, relying on an external source for what they lack in internal resources. Writing weakens the mind.
Wow. It does. But in a good way.
Oh, no, it just outsources the mind.
Go, Tim.
Outsource memory.
If you are making a single line connection, the cable must be inserted into an RJ11C or RJ11W wall jack. Any other connection for single line phone installations could cause trouble with the phone lines or damage the device. If the installation is for multiple keyline installations, the cable must be connected to an RJ12W, RJ12C, RJ13W, or RJ13C phone jack.
I know this one, 50 Shades of Grey.
Detailed explanations of this procedure are usually found in the information pages in the front of the telephone book.
The suspense is going to kill me to find out what happens.
Okay. At 5:31:04 Houston time, a brief voice report jolted the launch and flight teams. It was perhaps the defining moment in our race to get to the moon. After this, nothing would quite be the same ever again. Fire! We've got fire in the cockpit. We've got a bad fire. Get us out. We're burning up. The last sound was a scream, shrill and brief. The elapsed time of the crew report, 12 seconds. What was your book, Barbara?
To Say Nothing of the Dog. Or How We Found the Bishop's Bird Stump at Last by Connie Willis.
That darn bishop's bird stump. What's your Bob? What's your book?
What's your Bob?
What's your Bob? Barb.
It's The New Philosophy of Science and the Paranormal by Stephen Toulmin from Science Confronts the Paranormal, edited by Kendrick Fraser.
Toulmin?
Yes, as in the Toulmin model.
Wow.
Go, Bob.
My book is Orality and Literacy, to Technologizing of the Word by Walter Ong. It's a great book. Oh, Eve, you are such an opinion haver.
So are you.
It's a huge post-it note. Thank you very much for putting that on the screen.
Yeah.
Tim, I'm going to guess it's like a user's manual for a modem or something.
It is. It is the user's manual for the
the Hayes.
Hayes Smart Modem 300. I have no idea why I have
Why
it
do
sitting
you
on my desk. It's an incredibly obsolete manual for a piece of crap that I haven't had for years.
So you don't still have this in a box somewhere?
No, not a 300. I wouldn't keep that. I might keep a 9600 quad one.
Yeah.
Hayes was based here in Atlanta, so I knew a lot of the people who worked for this company.
Okay. Somewhere, I have a dual ISDN device somewhere that I don't even know, because I can't get rid of it. Nobody wants it.
I don't think I have any working modems anymore. I used to have a ton.
My book was a new acquisition. Well, not too new, about a month. I got it in D.C. at the Air and Space Museum. Failure is Not an Option, written by Gene Krantz, who is assistant.
Gene Krantz.
Yeah.
Eugene Krantz, who was the assistant flight director during the Mercury project and worked on some of the Apollo program as well. Very, very cool read. Some neat history that should repeat itself sometime soon,
Have you ever
hopefully.
read Man on the Moon?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe. Not recently.
Andrew
Is
Chaikin.
that new? Yeah?
It's been around for a long time,
Okay.
but
Yeah, I will go look for it. I guess that's
won't.
the shoe. I will. I do. Bob.
sorry.
That's the show. It went long, sorry, but we had fun. I'm going to put the logo up. And there's music. Rocket. Thanks for watching. Virtual Skeptics is an independent production of what'stheharm.net, Skeptical Humanities, myself, ICBS Everywhere, and Doubtful News. Our logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Music Camp and used with permission. As far as we know. No, we know. Just kidding.
Not sure.